spirit of this revolution is not going away.
This is the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, Daniel McAdams, and Chris Rossini.
We are all ambassadors of the Ron Paul doctrine, and it's so simple. Just tell the truth.
An idea whose time has come cannot be stopped by any army or any government.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Liberty Report. With us today, we have Chris Rossini. Chris, welcome to the program.
Dr. Paul, great to be with you.
Very good. We're ready to go. And I'll tell you what, they're supposed to sign the treaty. We're going to be talking about this agreement. It's not a treaty on Friday. And I think that sounds like it might be tomorrow or the next day. But you know what? I wonder if there's even a chance when I read all this and all the nonsense going on, all the inconsistencies going on, and with this 14-point deal that they have on, I wonder if it could even not occur. In some ways, I want something to occur. At least they're talking, and they suspended the bombs, and there's some ships are going through. Maybe they're moving in the right direction, and something will happen. But there's a lot of people now, they got wind of exactly what they're getting ready to sign, and they certainly didn't want the people in the Congress to know what was in the details of this. But the more the people learn, the more complaints that we're hearing about, and they're dealing with this. So this is an important period of time. I imagine there will be a signing, but I'm not so sure, how long it will last. But, the noise is coming from a group of people. There are some people who really, really dislikes this. And I wonder, why would they dislike this? They're Republicans, and that's the hawkish group. The hawks are really unhappy with this because the last thing a hawk wants is the diminishing of the conflict. I mean, I don't know what drives them. There's a lot of things. There's money, there's weapons, there's politics. Who knows what motivates these people, but they like to see action. And guess what, Chris? There's one person that is very unhappy that this is way too soft and we have to be much tougher, and that's Lindsey Graham. He's unhappy. So should we feel sorry for him? But the president's chiming in now. It's not exactly the most diplomatic way to handle this, but he ended up, I don't know, I would interpret it, he threatens the people who, if they don't sign this, we're going to bomb the living daylights out of you. So that doesn't sound like a good atmosphere for, moving ahead and moving toward a peaceful resolution. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I'd like to know what you think.
Yeah, Dr. Paul, yesterday Bloomberg released the 14 points of the memorandum, and it was a real eye-opener, especially for those who have been listening to the president and his administration this whole time. It's probably shocking. I mean, we won 50 times, and they've been defeated and begging for a deal. Turns out it was all talk. Iran cleaned up. They ran the table, and closing that strait was their checkmate. And it was all talk ever since then. And not just closing it, but threatening everyone that tried to go through to the point where nobody would insure it, and backing it up. If anyone tried, the missiles were flying. So they're defeated, their navies at the bottom of the ocean. It was all a big story, for the American people. And American people, I guess, still like listening to stories. That's just the way it is. But the reality now is this hundreds of billions are going to be, 300 billion for reconstruction, all these billions that instead of making America great again, are going to Iran. Isn't that nice for our country? How many failures is it going to take for the American government to finally change foreign policy? It hasn't happened yet. We have another big one. When will it happen, Dr. Paul?
You know, I think it's splitting the Republican Party. Quite frankly, you know, the hawks are buckling down, and they're a bit more arrogant, and they just can't stand somebody that would argue the case of the Constitution. What are you guys doing here? You know, don't you know we don't talk about that stuff anymore? So the diehards, the Make America Great Again, I think they're buckling down, but I think at the same time they're buckling down in their reaction to the numbers of people that are moving toward our direction. Why are we doing this? How do we get ahead this way? This is costing us money, and they're not happy with us. I think most people I know would like to see some type of a honest approach to reduction of this conflict, but it doesn't sound like that's going to happen. But I think the party is split in the same way there is a split now. You know, the liberal element of the Democratic Party used to be, you know, progressive-like, and if you had a progressive libertarian to deal with in the Republican Party, there was a reasonable chance that they could at least talk to people. But that doesn't seem to be what's happening right now. It seems to be just more conflict, and I think that this will be a big weekend on what happens on this signature. At the same time, we have to wait and see what the Federal Reserve is going to do. Maybe they will have an effect on these things, because I think money issue and economic policy is always something very important. You know, also, we read about about a suggestion by a very rich person in this country saying, you know, we're moving into a special era where we're in a place where, you know, it's trillions of dollars. It's just out there. We can take care of the people to the point where people might not even have to work anymore, and it'll be perpetual. I think the person that said that is a lot smarter than I am, and he's a lot richer. But for some reason, I have doubts that if you had enough trillionaires to just pass out the money, and everybody would be happy, and there would be peace forever. I happen to think that that would not occur. It's a good suggestion, and maybe it's done honestly, thinking that that might be the road to peace, because they wouldn't have to be killing each other to find out who owns the oil and who owns the oceans in order to ship the oil around the world. So there's a lot of questions as far as I'm concerned, Chris, and exactly what comes of it. So I think in the next 5 days are going to be very, very important days about which direction we're actually going.
Yeah, I mean, we can be happy that hopefully, if this even happens, that the war will stop. You know, that's obviously a very good thing. But we have to criticize that it was started in the first place, you know, by our president for no reason. Well, he's told us what the reasons for a foreign country, you know, but for us here at home, we pay, or let's say we're robbed $1 trillion for this empire every single year of our lives. And they want to they want to raise it to $1.5 trillion. And what is Iran's military budget? 10 to 20 billion. Nothing, peanuts compared to trillion, you know, and they brought the empire to its knees on a budget of 10 to 20 billion dollars. Now, what does that tell us? We are just being robbed here in this country for this. We could defend our country for so much less. You know, Dr. Paul has said it so many times. You just need some submarines. You know, it could cost a tiny fraction of what we pay now. But we are much worse off, and we, the American people, will never know what our lives could have been like if our money wasn't taken from us. I feel it every April 15th when I write the check to the federal government for income taxes, and then you have all the other taxes and fees, and then on top of that, the inflation. So we are much worse off, but we don't know by how much, because it never happened. We were robbed. So we can't know what would our life have been like if our country just defended our country. We'll never know, you know, and you know. But we're also brainwashed, and I was brainwashed too for a while. you grow up thinking, oh, those other nations, those backwards, they just don't know any better. There are people, they just don't know any better. Well, wouldn't you know that it's actually us? We don't know any better. We're the ones that are just robbed blind and our standard of living constantly going down for this. So we're the ones, we're always looking outward at those others when we really should have been looking to ourselves.
Lindsey Graham is an insider. He knows what's going on, and he's played his role. He once was not a close buddy of Trump, but now he has been, and he's been getting a lot of interviews and publicity out of this. But he's not happy with this. He's in the hawk category, and so he's complaining about this. And he made a statement, a brief statement, saying that the way Iran describes it, it's awful. So he's sort of, let's say, in the middle of this. Maybe he'll be a good political indicator. But my guess will probably be that he will come around, because I think he likes the power he wields by being a close buddy of the president. But that we will have to find out. But actually, all this stuff and all the spending of money and what they do and all these negotiations, they serve a good function, and they should serve a road to peace. But it's not going to happen. So it's hard to be optimistic and say, boy, Friday the signature's going to be there, and we are getting the oil out already, and things are going to be okay. But if you look at the history of that area, it doesn't suggest to me that we're going to overcome. And Chris, you already mentioned, how much money is going in, how much money we spend, and there is a limit. Just because we have trillionaires that want to pass some money out, it doesn't work that easy. It means that even when rich people have a lot of money and they're generous, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't increase the value of a unit of an account. And that's what people have to live in a free society. You want to have a goal of a functioning economy. You can't base it all on, the military. And that's what's happened here. We're so much involved. Before this started a year ago, oil was around $60, $70 a barrel, and all of a sudden there was a sort of a glut, and things weren't bad. And the war was breaking out, and I thought, boy, this time it won't be oil won't be the big deal like in the 70s. But before we knew it, oil was above $100. So they can shift these things rather quickly if they don't stick to some principles that are a little bit more sensible. And my only suggestion there is, if they paid a little bit more attention about the restraints that the Constitution puts on our politicians, that means we would be all a lot better off.
Very good, Dr. Paul. I will close with my final thoughts. Looks like this will be short and sweet today. And going back to how you started the program, will this, even last? Will it happen? Will it be sabotaged? Our government is loaded with warmongers, bad people. The Epstein files. Even though there's a law, you have to release these. They're not going to release them. So this is who is ruling over us. And they know that they can manipulate public opinion, because they do it all the time, every day. There's people that are, ready to take whatever the president says and his administration and run with it simply because he says it. So, will this even last? Maybe not, because we know that the people that rule over us, they have a goal to rule the entire world. The entire globe has to be under their thumb. So are they going to stop? Are they going to let this stop them? Perhaps they'll pause. The empire pauses, but will it stop them? And, it doesn't look so good as long as we have this type of ruling class, the Epstein class, as many people call them. As long as they're there, no, they're not going to stop. They still will have the same goals, and that's not good. So as good as it is that there may be some peace, perhaps, it's not good that these people are still there and they'll be angling, to do it again. So America has a lot of work to do, and we have a lot of work to do. So until then, we will take what we can get. And if there is peace for the time being, we'll take it.
Very good. For now, my answer to our own question, that the question was, who's the most unhappy now, what's going on with the treaty and what's coming up? And I just would say that is the MAGA people, the people who are the strongest supporter of the president and will remain strong. They will. They're not going to back off because they basically have a different understanding of the use of force and the negligence on following the details of the Constitution. What surprises me, though, is how some of these individuals who are in high places right now could have, a few years ago, maybe before they were in the Trump administration, they were very, very critical of this type of a foreign policy. And yet now it's exactly the opposite, and they have to live up to the fact that those quotes are out there. But it's much more likable for me to see people who said, I knew so-and-so, and this was his position, and he went to Congress and take a person like Thomas Massey. He took it seriously, and here are the MAGA people. They didn't like him because he didn't support the war, but he supported the Constitution, his oath of office. This is just horrible what they do. So that's why on the big picture, I'm rather pessimistic of what happens. I'm still optimistic that more and more people are waking up and would like to see a better world. And I do believe they believe that freedom is the approach, that we have individuals running things, not the superior power of the dictatorship of the majorities, because that eliminates the important policy of individuals are self-ownerships. They have responsibilities, and they have a responsibility to at least know and understand what natural law is all about. And that means you're not allowed, you're not permitted to, and you should not lie, cheat, steal, or kill, whether you're in a private session or whether you're participating in government. If you had the majority of people that would really believe that, but it's always just so temporary, and there's so many temptations in politics that they say, well, in this case, we have to do this because there's a danger out there. If we don't, who knows? We might get bombed, so we're going to bomb them first. I mean, it's just terrible. I cannot see how current foreign policy of the Republicans and the Democrats that have been going on, for a good many years can bring peace. I think that we have introduced the notion that if you're having problems, you start another war, and they believe that economic conditions increase. And there's evidence that there's been statistics that things have increased here in the last year or so by spending more money. But believe me, that is not the answer to a scarcity of liberty. That, of course, is what I always want to emphasize, because I have a full confidence that the American people, all people, will do what is in their own interest if they understand natural law, that you can't kill people for it or threaten them, or else they will be killed. That is not a road to peace and prosperity. I want to thank everybody for tuning in today to the Liberty Report. Please come back soon.
Thanks for watching the Ron Paul Liberty Report. Like and subscribe to help spread the message. And until next time, live free.
This country is in a revolution.